Tuesday. Jessica and Casey here with you today. We are talking about having a generalized meal plan or diet protocol versus a specific autoimmune disease protocol. We've probably heard in the media about Mediterranean diet, keto diet, all of the other things.
Inflammatory diet.
Thank you. Yes, I'm drawing a blank on all of the diets right now. But we're here to kind of bust that myth on why we need a specific protocol for our specific chronic inflammatory diseases. And it's not a one size fits all approach. So we'll go through some foods on what foods are in these specific diets, what foods we should avoid, things like that. But before we get started, we want to introduce ourselves just in case you're new to our community. My name is Casey Kephart. I am the founder of the Feel Good Formula and a functional medicine nutritionist for all women with all different types of autoimmune diseases. I want you to get back to the activities you love to do, trash those symptoms, get your life back, basically. And I reside in St. Petersburg, Florida. Jessica?
And I'm Jessica Melnick. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, the founder of the Anti-Arthritis Method, and the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions Group. And I help both women and men with various forms of arthritis get back to living life the way they choose to, not the way they have to.
Awesome. All right, so let's get back into it. One of the things that I once heard probably a long time ago is, how can we expect a diet to work for everybody when we all have individual and different biochemistries inside of us, right? We all have different DNA. We all have a different metabolism. We all have different genes and SNPs and methylating issues. Like, we have just a different makeup in general. So how can the media tell us that the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest for us, or the anti-inflammatory diet is the most healthy for everybody, or keto is the best way to lose weight? We're putting this whole umbrella over all of our people on the world, and it's just not feasible for everybody to feel better on these diets. So if you've watched Jessica and I over the past year now, we always talk about an autoimmune disease protocol for your arthritis, for any autoimmune disease. And this is specific to the autoimmune disease process and to a leaky gut. So it's hyper focusing in on your condition, not just this generalized should work approach. So my example would be oatmeal. I'm sure you've heard me talk about oatmeal a million times, but I'm going to keep beating this dead horse. Is that oatmeal is probably known as one of the most superfood, most beneficial foods that we can eat for our health, for fiber, for pooping, for energy, all of the things, right? I even remember listening to WGN News when I was first in college, and this 95-year-old woman came on there. Not sure if she was 95, but she was in her 90s. And she said the key to her living this long has been oatmeal every morning. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing such a great job. Like, I'm going to live till I'm 100. But oatmeal was killing me every day. It was causing my GI upset, my irregular bowels, my fatigue, my mood irregularity. It was just making my autoimmune diseases worse. So this is the prime example for me that even though our society tells us that these superfoods and oatmeal is the most beneficial food we can have, it was slowly killing me. So we, as women with autoimmune disease or arthritis, or men, we need a specialized protocol. So let's talk about what kind of foods on these healthy diets that the media and society is telling us to do are actually inflammatory for our arthritis and our autoimmune diseases. Jessica, do you want to get into that?
Yeah, the first one is grains. And I think this just expands on your whole oatmeal example. I grew up in the decade of low fat is best, and also whole grains. Like, you got to get your whole grains.
Mm-hmm.
And you were supposed to, I think on our the Canadian food guide, oh my gosh, it was like 7 to 12 servings of
Yeah.
a day or something crazy. I was like,
It was the bottom on the pyramid in the US.
I was like, number one, who can even eat that much food in a day? Unless you're
That's like
a male.
300 grams of carbs. Like, hello, Candida.
Oh my goodness. But that's what we were told. Like, it's so healthy, you know, and like the cereals were all marketed like, you know, I don't know what, like everyone knows the brands. I'm not gonna, you know, badmouth, but like they carry this many grams of whole grains in the packaged cereal. And also another point, number two, if you're eating boxed cereal, there's a 99% chance that it's really unhealthy for you.
It's
very
inflammatory.
Rare. It's very rare to find a packaged cereal that is actually going to be good for your body. Anyways, so let's talk about grains and why, if you have arthritis or an autoimmune condition, you're going to want to avoid them. So grains contain a couple things called lectins and phytates. These are a couple examples of properties of the plants themselves that are created to protect the plant from predators. So these are things the plant contains to ward off pests, and so that it can protect and maintain its integrity so it can continue to grow and thrive. Now, they kill off pests, but for people, it causes an inflammatory response for a lot of us. Now, this isn't to say that some people do just fine with some whole grains, but if you're having an inflammatory condition like arthritis or an autoimmune condition, these properties in these plants and these grains are actually going to really irritate your gut. And when you irritate your gut, you're going to inflame your immune system and create an overreaction response that is going to attack your body's tissues. So these are a no-no when it comes to eating for arthritis or an autoimmune condition. So when I'm talking about grains, I'm talking about even quinoa. Quinoa is considered like a pseudo grain. Even though it's gluten-free, even gluten-free grains are still inflammatory. You know, we all know things, breads, pasta, rice. We know this is obvious, oatmeal, cereals. And then the processed grains that you find in baked goods, you guys know what I'm talking about. So even gluten-free grains have properties in them that are inflammatory to those of us who have arthritis or autoimmune conditions. Cross-reactivity is another thing that you have to be aware of as well. So even gluten-free grains can either be contaminated with gluten because they are processed in the same manufacturing facilities as glutinous grains like wheat or barley or rye. And they can also cause what is called cross-reactivity in people with autoimmune conditions as well. So our bodies can recognize a gluten-free grain like oatmeal and tag it and be like, oh my goodness, this is a bad thing, and then create an inflammatory response. So Casey, maybe did you want to share about the cross-reactivity with oatmeal and gluten?
Yeah, it shares, it looks the same way to our weakened immune system or heightened immune system or tired immune system. And so our body just tags it. It makes a mistake, honestly, but it has similar molecular structure as a gluten molecule would. And so when our body tags this as a foreign invader, this is when our body is going to attack and cause those symptoms that we may feel. However, if you are one of those people and you're saying to yourself right now, like, I eat quinoa and chia seeds all the time, I make sure they're gluten-free, I don't feel anything, I don't have a flare up, I don't feel like my autoimmune disease is getting worse. These are it can be very subtle symptoms that are happening, or even no symptoms at all, but it's still increasing your inflammation in your body, making another food very, very susceptible for you to feel symptoms of. So the more water we can put on this fire inside of us, the better. So we would always recommend eliminating grains for X amount of time until your gut is healed. And then sometimes some people can tolerate maybe one serving of quinoa a week or one serving of gluten-free oats a week. We still wouldn't highly recommend it. But it is tolerable and to keep that inflammation at bay. So it's not something that you need to keep out forever, but it is something we need to really limit and watch and be mindful of our bodies and how that's affecting us. And that goes for really all of the foods we talk about and any foods in general, because I know for me, kale is supposed to be healthy, right? But I cannot eat kale one bit because it bugs my body and it is tagged as a foreign invader. So any foods can cause an upset, even healthy ones, but what is healthy nowadays?
Mhm.
So the next category of what would be healthy, let's say in a Mediterranean diet or an anti-inflammatory diet, would be nightshade vegetables. Nightshade vegetables include eggplants and peppers like bell peppers and jalapenos, paprika, chili powders, white potatoes, tomatoes, goji berries. And these nightshades are known for specifically causing joint pain and aches inside our body. So if you are dealing with rheumatoid arthritis or just a stiffness and achiness throughout the day or when you wake up or go to bed, I would highly recommend eliminating nightshades for a good 14 to 30 days and then adding them back in one at a time. Um, my stepmom is fine with potatoes, white potatoes, but she cannot eat tomatoes, like in a Bloody Mary mix or a stew or anything like that. And she found that out through process of elimination. And she gets joint aches and heart palpitations, and there was something else too that I'm forgetting that she gets, but heartburn. So that comes with just knowing your body, but we need that process of elimination first. And another reason that why all anti-inflammatory diets, all Mediterranean diets are not a one size fits all approach for autoimmune disease to being healthy, to losing weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's another thing that I wanted to point out too, is the weight loss thing, is that if you have an autoimmune disease or a chronic inflammatory disease, you are not going to lose weight very much. It's going to be harder to lose weight. So you first need to focus on that inflammatory response that your body is having, and then the weight will come off second. And I say that just because a lot of diets are for losing weight and feeling better, but we need to fix the autoimmune disease first through what Jessica and I have our programs through and what we teach every single day. I went on a tangent there, so save me, Jessica.
And just to piggyback on that, my clients who do have weight to lose do so naturally on the program that we walk them through, because once the inflammation starts going down and you're eating foods that are not inflaming your body and irritating your body, then the weight just starts to naturally come off. And it's just like you said, our body is focused on bringing down the inflammation first because it's trying to protect us. And so our body has its innate wisdom, and it does what it needs to do to try to get us healthier. So we have to help it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that drives me crazy too about the myths about what we're taught is anti-inflammatory, and inflammatory is being told that meat is inflammatory, specifically red meat. I hear this all the time. My clients have been convinced that they should not eat red meat because it's bad for them. It increases cholesterol. It's like, heart disease risk and all these things. This is so far from the truth. Good quality meat, which means, we're looking at grass-fed, grass-finished beef. We are looking at pasture-raised pork, pasture-raised chicken, like free-run chickens. We're looking at wild-caught fish and seafood. When we're looking at good quality fish and poultry and meat, it is not inflammatory. In fact, it is the most bioavailable source of proteins that we can find. And that's why it's really tricky a lot of times for vegetarians or vegans to do well on, when they have an autoimmune condition, because they're eating so many foods that are irritating their gut and creating more issues with their immune system. And so meat itself is not inflammatory. It is that animal protein is so healing and absorbable. Our body needs that. I always tell my clients, we typically don't get enough protein, or we don't often, I think as we age, especially, we need to have an adequate amount of protein in our diet so that we can maintain muscle mass, so that we can support our joints and just have the processes and be able to function well, and to be able to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So meat itself and fish and poultry is not inflammatory. Red meat, I eat a lot of red meat. All of my blood markers are normal. Granted, I stick to grass-fed and grass-finished beef from a reasonably local farmer that is a friend of a friend kind of thing. And it's very healthy. It's full of omega-3 fatty acids. And I thought that was such a neat thing, because back in the day, I thought you only got omega-3s from fish.
Mm-hmm.
Omega-3s are super important to bring down inflammation in the body, and also for brain health, heart health, all the things. And grass-fed beef has lots of omega-3s. So who knew?
Right. Also, though, vitamin D, which we all know of, absorbable iron. I know for the vegans and vegetarians out there, it's said that iron is in dark green leafy vegetables, which it is, but it's not in the bioavailable form as meat is. So your body, I think the statistic was like 20% of that iron is only getting absorbed. And that depends on your body, how inflamed it is, if you have any gene SNPs or methylating issues. So a grass-fed and grass-finished meat is going to provide more of that vitamin D, that iron, but also CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. This isn't really much talked about, but it is very good for actually weight loss. It's a supplement that you can buy on the shelf, actually, that helps with weight loss. And it is very anti-inflammatory too. So it's the highest levels in a food form is actually from a grass-fed, grass-finished beef cow. So if you want a reason to eat a cow, do it for the CLA in it, do it for the anti-inflammatory properties of the omega-3s, of the vitamin D, of the iron, of the absorbable protein in there. So we want to try to squash that myth as much as possible. And I think Jessica and I will keep saying to eat the meats as long as it's a great quality. And that's what also stands out from eating a Mediterranean diet or an anti-inflammatory diet or a vegan and vegetarian diet, is that it's not this one size fits all approach. There we go. The last foods that usually have that are in this one size fits all approach is legumes. This would be beans and peas, all of that.
Soy.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yep, exactly. And these are going to act the same kind of as grains, where they have this protective mechanism on them that is good for being out in the wild and bugs not getting them. But our body has a hard time breaking that layer down, and it's inflammatory to us. So these are called lectins and phytates. So your kidney beans, black beans, red, refined, edamame, soy. We want to stay away from the legumes because it's just going to increase our inflammation. And I know you're probably thinking, well, that's what all anti-inflammatory diets say, and Mediterranean, and beans are supposed to be good for us, and the fiber and all of this, but it's not bioavailable for us at all. Like, the properties on paper look great. When it actually comes into our inflamed bodies, it is not so great at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that our doctors don't tell us this, and conventional nutrition advice does not tell us this. Our regular nutritionists or dietitians are not going to tell us this. And that's why when you work with a functional medicine nutritionist like Casey or a holistic nutritionist like myself, we are working specifically to address your condition, not what's generally considered healthy, because that's not going to help you. And so that's why it's so important that we understand why these foods are working against us instead of for us, and why, most of the nutrition advice that you hear right now on the internet is not going to be helpful.
Yep, exactly. And in addition to both of us helping or guiding you in your nutrition protocol for your exact chronic inflammatory disease, we talk about other factors like lifestyle and mindset, stress management, time eating, mechanisms and things like that. So we do this whole holistic approach because it's not just the diet that's going to help you get better. It's your whole life and your habits and your routines and your mindset and what you do day to day to day. And we have that all for you. And we help guide you through it and support you, keep you accountable, all of the things. So if this is something that you are wanting to know more about, please let us know either in the comments here or direct message either of us. And we'll be sure to give you some more information and help guide you any way that we can. Jessica, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think that's perfect. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Cool. All right. We hope to hear from you in the comments or give us a love on this video if you enjoyed it. Jessica will be back on Thursday, right? You're doing Thursday this week? Okay.
I will be back on Thursday to share another healthy recipe, a joint-friendly recipe, not a generally healthy recipe, one that's good for your joints.
Right. Awesome. All right, everybody have a good rest of your day.
Take care.